Hello friends. Hope you're having a pleasant evening. Here in the cloud, things are peaceful and relaxing. I want to tell you about something that has been captivating me lately. It is the idea of lost lands. This concept refers to lands, often continents or islands, that some believe to have existed long ago, but have since disappeared due to some kind of catastrophic event. Often geological. For example, being overtaken by the sea. Perhaps the most well-known of these lost lands is the legendary island of Atlantis. Another such lost land, that I learned about during this particular Wikipedia binge, is the lost continent of Lemuria. So please, sit back, relax, maybe close your eyes, and let's begin our journey to the lost continent of Lemuria. Lemuria is a hypothetical lost land located either in the Indian or the Pacific Ocean, as postulated by now discredited 19th century scientific theory. The idea was then adopted by the occultists of the time and consequently has been incorporated into pop culture. Some Tamil writers have associated it with Kumari Kandam, a mythical lost continent with an ancient Tamil civilization located south of present-day India in the Indian Ocean. Originally, Lemuria was hypothesized as a land bridge, now sunken, which would account for certain discontinuities in biogeography. This idea has been rendered obsolete by modern theories of plate tectonics. Sunken continents such as Zealandia in the Pacific, Mauritius in the Kerguelen Plateau in the Indian Ocean do exist, but no geological formation under the Indian or Pacific Oceans is known that could have served as a land bridge between continents. The idea of Lemuria was subsequently incorporated into the Proto-New Age philosophy of theosophy and subsequently into general fringe belief. Accounts of Lemuria here differ. All share a common belief that a continent existed in ancient times and sank beneath the ocean as a result of a geological, often cataclysmic, change, such as pole shift, which such theorists anticipate will destroy and transform the modern world. In 1864, The Mammals of Madagascar by zoologist and biogeographer Philip Sclater appeared in the Quarterly Journal of Science. Using a classification here referred to as lemurs, but which included related primate groups, and puzzled by the presence of their fossils in both Madagascar and India, but not in Africa or the Middle East. Sclater proposed that Madagascar and India had once been part of a larger continent. He was correct in this, though in reality this was the supercontinent Pangaea. Sclater's theory was hardly unusual for his time. Land bridges, real and imagined, fascinated several of Sclater's contemporaries. Etienne Geoffroy, also looking at the relationship between animals in India and Madagascar, had suggested a southern continent about 2 decades before Sclater, but did not give it a name. The acceptance of Darwinism led scientists to seek to trace the diffusion of species from their points of evolutionary origin. Prior to the acceptance of continental drift, Biologists frequently postulated submerged land masses to account for populations of land-based species now separated by barriers of water. Similarly, geologists tried to account for striking resemblances of rock formations on different continents. The first systematic attempt was made by Melchior Neumayer in his book Erdschicht in 1887. Many hypothetical submerged land bridges and continents were proposed during the 19th century to account for the present distribution of species. After gaining some acceptance within the scientific community, the concept of Lemuria began to appear in the works of other scholars. Ernst Haeckel, a Darwinian taxonomist, proposed Lemuria as an explanation for the absence of missing link fossil records. According to another source, Haeckel put forward this thesis prior to Sclater, but without using the name Lemuria. Locating the origins of the human species on this lost continent, he claimed the fossil record could not be found because it sank beneath the sea. Other scientists hypothesized that Lemuria had extended across parts of the Pacific Ocean, seeking to explain the distribution of various species across Asia and the Americas. Lemuria entered the lexicon of the occult through the works of Helena Blavatsky, who claimed that the Mahatmas had shown her an ancient, pre-Atlantean book of Tzien. Lemuria is mentioned in one of the 1882 Mahatma letters to A. P. Senate. According to L. Sprague de Camp, Blavatsky's concept of Lemuria was influenced by other contemporaneous writers on the theme of lost continents. Within Blavatsky's complex cosmology, which includes 7 root races, the third root race occupied Lemuria. She describes them as about 7 feet, 2.1 meters, tall, sexually hermaphroditic, egg-laying, mentally undeveloped and spiritually more pure than the following root races. Before the coming of the Lemurians, the second root race is said to have dwelled in Hyperborea. After the subsequent creation of mammals, Madame Blavatsky revealed to her readers, some Lemurians turned to bestiality. The later theosophical author William Scott Elliott gave one of the most elaborate accounts of lost continents. The English theosophist received his knowledge from Charles Webster Leadbetter, who reportedly communicated with the theosophical masters by astral clairvoyance. In 1896 he published The Story of Atlantis, followed in 1904 by The Lost Lemuria, in which he included a map of the continent of Lemuria as stretching from the east coast of Africa across the Indian and the Pacific Oceans. James Bramwell portrayed Lemuria in his book, Lost Atlantis, as a continent that occupied a large part of what is now the South Pacific Ocean. He described the people of Lemuria in detail and characterized them as one of the root races of humanity. According to Bramwell, Lemurians are the ancestors of the Atlanteans, who survived the period of the general racial decadence which affected the Lemurians in the last stages of their evolution. From a select division of the Atlanteans, after their promotion to decadence, Bramwell claims the Aryan race arose. Lemurians, Atlanteans, and Aryans are root races of humanity, according to Bramwell. Blavatsky theorized that Australia was a remnant inland region of Lemuria and that Aboriginal Australians and Aboriginal Tasmanians, which she identified as separate groups, were of Lemurian and Lemuro-Atlantean origin, after crossbreeding with animals. Her idea was subsequently developed in pseudo-histories and fiction of the white Australian popular culture of the 1890s and early 1900s, including the writings of nationalist Australian poet Bernard O'Dowd, author Rosa Campbell Praed in My Australian Girlhood, author John David Hennessy in An Australian Bush Track, and George Firth Scott's novel The Last Lemurian, a Westralian romance. Professor Robert Dixon theorizes that the popularity of the idea of lost races like Lemurians and Atlanteans reflected the anxieties of colonial Australians. That when Englishness is lost, there is nothing to replace it. A. L. McCann attributes Praed's use of the Lemuria trope to an attempt to create a lineage for white settlers without having to confront the annihilation of indigenous people, which Praed's father was involved in. In 1894, Frederick Spencer Oliver published A Dweller on Two Planets, which claimed that survivors from a sunken continent called Lemuria were living in or on Mount Shasta in Northern California. Oliver claimed the Lemurians lived in a complex of tunnels beneath the mountain and occasionally were seen walking the surface dressed in white robes. Well, friends, that's all I have for now, on the topic of Lemuria. I hope you found this relaxing, and that you'll join me on future excursions into lost lands. For now, good night, sweet dreams, and until we chat again, take care.